tell me about how 4.0 is taking over the IIoT.
Yeah, I think what's really important when you think about Industry 4.0, everybody just wants to make the factory better, optimize it. And so when you think about how do I minimize downtime? How do I keep my equipment more efficient? How do I make my entire operation more productive? I think Industry 4.0, we'll talk about some of the tools that really bring and optimize that factory. And at the end of the day, everything's driven by a business case, so it's got to make dollars and cents.
Well, mankind has been building things for decades and decades, and we've been using electronics and all those type of things to assist us. But as we come to this Industrial 4.0, tell me about the protocols that's going on. Why is Industrial Ethernet so important?
Yeah, I think at the highest level, everybody wants to have a singular protocol, right? So some of the best solutions in the world are always going to be reduce complexity and make very easy. So throughout, as you mentioned, decades, there's been a lot of very important and very specific protocols, and Industrial Ethernet will allow for some of those protocols to be integrated and make things more seamless, less conversion, less transfer of protocol. And whenever you do that, you simplify things, it just makes your operation more efficient and reduces the errors that could happen within your facility.
Share with me a little bit about where does Industrial Ethernet stand now in terms of its market share, its penetration? What are some of the other protocols as this convergence towards Industrial Ethernet continues to happen?
Great question. So when you think about what's called the industrial network, today, presently, about 60% of that industrial network is called Industrial Ethernet. About 6% is wireless, and we'll talk about wireless, with the remaining 35% being field bus. And so when you add those together, that 59 to 60% of Industrial Ethernet, that will include protocols like Ethernet, Profinet, EtherCAT, and others. The 6% of wireless, you would think, why not make wireless everything in a factory? And there's a lot of reasons why people would think wireless is the way to go. The reality is you always want things to be reliable, plugged in, and having it plugged in makes it reliable. You can't have a factory, think of large presses, and all of a sudden your wireless connection goes down. That's why you always want to have things plugged in. But rather, there is a need for some places where you just can't physically plug in something, and that has to be wireless. It's about 6%. And then that remaining 30%, 30 to 35% is the traditional field bus. And we're seeing a dramatic shift towards Industrial Ethernet.
And some of that's coming because at the application layer right now, what we can do with Industrial Ethernet is use that in a manner that we weren't able to in previous generations. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, everything wants to be, the desire is to have everything be IP addressable. And what makes IP addressable so unique is then I can access it. And so you'll hear terms like cloud to sensor or cloud to whatever. And so the ability to have something that's IP addressable means that I can understand, I can connect to, get the data from, and make decisions from that. So there's a tremendous advantage to having everything be an Industrial Ethernet protocol.